Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to XRS Plus, the official podcast for X Racing Series. You might be wondering what is going on. What has been going on behind the scenes in XRS? Why are they releasing half videos? Well, I'll explain. As you know, my equipment for commentating is awful, and it seems like for the podcast is even worse. Me and my co-host, as you now know if you've watched the first episode, and I'll introduce him shortly. We recorded two parts of the previous podcast. We did the predictions for each individual division, which got deleted. I don't know how it did that. And we did the OCC, which fortunately is already on YouTube by the time you're watching this. So go check it out if you haven't. It's a good vid. Yes, so we are here recording again. To keep it interesting, because obviously we do know each other's predictions, we have changed a few. I don't know what he's done, but I've changed quite a lot of mine. So hopefully we'll get still some interest from it. I would like to introduce, for the third time now, my co-host, the McLaren team principal. It is Finley Millard. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. It's good to be back on the podcast. I mean, I was on the previous episode, so I'm still on the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. I love doing my own predictions behind the scenes usually, but to be the one actually sat here behind the microphone doing the predictions it is an honour, and I'm excited.
I'm very excited to see. I'm excited to see what you've changed, because people at home, they don't know your predictions from the first time. So we're going to get started. Would you like to start from Div 1, Div 5, or somewhere in the middle? Where do you go?
I mean, someone would consider Div 5 to Div 1 as the worst to best. So I think we go worst to best. I think we go with Div 5 and build our way up to the top step of Division 1.
All right, chronologically, we're going to start on the Wednesday division, starting in Division 5. In these predictions, we are going to be giving our top 3 in the driver standings, and also who we think is going to win the constructors in that division as well. Who have you put P3 in the driver standings in Div 5?
Now, Div 5 is an interesting one because, as it stands, there's not a lot of drivers because of the new division.
Yeah.
Whereas there'll be a lot of new drivers, I'd assume, coming into the division in different stages of the season. But for me, it's the division will get more popular and harder as the season progresses. But I feel like any driver who comes in after the early stages of the season, then they're not going to have that chance to compete for the championship.
Yeah.
So I have to go based on what I can see right now, and P3 for me is a tricky one. There's a few good names. There's the likes of Throne Globe and Aston Walker. So it is really difficult. But I have gone for the man who missed round 1, unfortunately. I've gone for my driver in Bolt Slinger.
Fair. What makes you think that?
I think he's a consistent driver. People don't really know him a lot, so that takes away sort of the pressure. And I think he's silently cooking, and hopefully he can achieve P3 in the championship. I don't think he'll push for anything more, being realistic. But I think P3 for him would be the goal, and hopefully he can pull it off for the sake of my team.
I think P3 for your first full season is a good accomplishment, especially since he's jumped into a big team as his first full seat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
P3 though, I've gone a little bit more down the order actually, and I've gone for Aston Martin. I've gone for Throne Globe for P3. I'll tell you what, it's one of them situations which we've talked about previously, where in other seasons as well, where a really standout driver is in lower teams and they just become so popular. I reckon Aston can either reap the benefits of a driver that's going to be at the front of the division, or they can get a lot of money selling him to a team that probably wants that driver in their team, because, as you said, Division 5, in comparison to the rest of the divisions, is far more empty. The rest of them are full grids and beyond in the reserves. But I don't know. I feel like something from Throne Globe. We've seen him in Division 4. He's very consistent. Obviously, what he didn't have previously was the time to race, and his attendance was quite low. I've been told it's quite high this season. I think he's going to be a big part of Aston Martin's points this season. They've had a really good start in Australia. I reckon Throne Globe's going to bring up a P3.
Yeah,
I reckon it's a good shout. But
I can see why you said it. I mean, I know Throne Globe really well. I've known him for, in terms of league racing, I've known him for a few years now. I believe he's a top name to have in your team. However,
Yeah.
I think based off information I was told behind the scenes, I don't think he's actually available to commit each week to XRS.
Oh, really?
I remember him saying to me specifically that his availability is every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. But it's about the points you get whilst you're racing. But
Mm.
if he is active every week, then honestly, no doubt of a shout, he potentially wins that championship because he is massively underrated. But with his activeness within the league
Yeah.
coming up, I don't think he's going to really challenge. I think the races that he does attend, it's a real threat for everyone else. But overall consistency wise, with it not being an 8 round season anymore, I don't see him competing in my opinion.
Yeah. Fair. Um, P2. Who have you put just ahead of Portsinger?
I've put someone who most people would probably consider the favourite
Oh.
based off pace. He chose to decline many offers, I believe, from the big teams. I've gone for King Cobra
Ooh.
in P2
P2.
in the Alpine. Yep,
That's interesting.
I believe it was a controversial decision from him to join Alpine instead, because there was offers from the likes, I believe, Haas. I know McLaren offered him. I don't know whether there was interest there from Ferrari. I'm sure he was a name that was looked into, but he chose to join a team to sort of not have that pressure on himself. He wanted to join an upcoming team, as he labelled it. So I think he's going to have a good season, and I think he 100% has probably the most chance to win the championship. But I believe it's going to be P2 in his first season.
Yeah, fair. I mean, we've seen King Cobra. This is his third season actually. He has raced in season one, just as only as a reserve. This is his first time having a full seat. He's taken to the seat very well. I mean, he did very well in Australia. I think
Yeah,
he's for sure
very
going to be
well.
a front runner. I haven't gone for him for P2 though, as my second place. My second place has actually gone to McLaren. I've said Tiger. So obviously Tiger, we
Fair.
know the story. He was in Red Bull. He broke his contract to move across to McLaren, but obviously he's unable to until mid-season. He also took a 50-point deduction. I can't lie. Looking at his pace, looking at his consistency, I genuinely think that he's going to still get P2 even with the 50-point deduction. I think it's a bit of a stretch to say he'll beat
That would be
Royston as
unreal.
P1. Yeah, that would be unreal. But I do think he'll get P2. I think he's a really, really solid driver. He's definitely a standout in that division. But he's got the problem he has now is he's not playing from an equal level field. He's now playing the catch up game already from round one. So I wish him the best of luck, but I think he'll be P2.
Yeah, I mean, based off conversations I've had with him, I refer myself as quite close with Tiger. I believe, obviously, the point deduction isn't ideal. Obviously, no one wants to go into a season on minus 50 points. I believe he terminated his contract due to not being available, and it turns out he is available, which is unlucky because now he's playing the chasing game for the first half of the season. But I believe he is 100% good enough to still achieve the P2, like you said. I know for him
Yeah.
it's extra motivation having to chase, which is a good thing most of the time, and I believe he is good enough to achieve it. But we'll see. Hopefully.
Go on, who have you put P1? Who is winning the Div 5
For
title?
P1,
First Div 5 champion.
I've gone brave, and I've gone for a name no one would even consider unless you're in their team.
Oh no. Go
I've
on
gone
then.
for a risk, but I'm hoping it pays off. Serafire to win the Div 5 championship.
Wow, okay.
That,
Why'd you say that?
I think his pace is good on this game. I think with all due respect to him, right? I mean, he's a known guy within our community from previous times. He's known for not being the best of the game. That just being realistic. We're trying not to sound harsh. He's known for not being good, right? But this
Yeah.
game, I've seen it. His pace is good. His pace is good enough to win a championship. Obviously, the one thing is consistency in terms of being able to challenge for wins race after race after race. That's what it takes to win a championship. Whether he has that consistency or not decides if he wins. I think on overall pace, he wins it, no doubt.
Do you think? Wow. Okay. Well, I have not put him in P1. For me, P1, I've put King Cobra. I've gone back to your P2, and I've said the man in the Alpine is going to get it. As you said, yeah. I mean, he was pretty popular in the transfer window, as far as I could hear. He's gone to Alpine, as you say, to get a bit less stress. I don't think that's going to turn any teams off him. I think they will still be chasing him down, especially with Division 5 being, I mean, quite empty at this stage. If he, obviously we know around round 3, where we do admins do a bit of a reshuffle. We reshuffle some of the drivers and change the division a little bit. If he's still up there at the front, as he was in Australia, when maybe some Div 4s go down, then he's definitely going to be an interest to the top teams, maybe mid-season. His contract's only 1 season as well, so for sure next season as well. I think King Cobra takes it, I'll be honest. I think that 50-point deduction from Tiger will give him a bit of a helping hand, though. I think it 100%. Might. The gap may be less than 50 points between the two by the end. I imagine it will be.
Yeah, I mean...
But I'm going to say King Cobra, yeah.
Off what you said about Div 4s potentially coming down, I mean, you can say that about every division. I think for example, there's names in Division 1 that could full well be in Division 2 by round 3. And that can completely change the championship. But I mean, you have the slight idea, but in terms of in my predictions, you can't really change predictions based off people if buts and maybes being moved down. But if some Div 4s are moved down after a few races, I think the competition that they face in Div 4 and how much they're having to push themselves will massively help them when it comes to being moved down to Division 5.
Yeah, that's fair. Who do you think is going to win the first Constructors' Championship in Div 5?
Oh, it's interesting because, I mean, there's not many teams with a full lineup yet. You've got Sauber who don't actually have a lineup, which I don't know what their thinking was behind that. You've got Ferrari, for example. They only have Walker, who in my opinion is a work in progress, and you've got, as it stands, McLaren with 1 driver, but will be 2. It's interesting. You've got Alpine with a very strong lineup in Division 5, very strong.
Yeah.
100% Alpine will be a top 2 team in Division 5 all season. But I don't know. I think it will be between McLaren and Alpine in Division 5.
Yeah.
Just.
I think Tiger's doing God's work as a reserve, though. Those points.
I mean, it's unfortunate that he can't be signed until the next transfer window, but I think the early stages of the season for Alpine, with reserve slots and etc., I think that's really going to give them the advantage over McLaren. And I'm going to put Alpine just about to win the Division 5 Constructors.
Yeah, I've gone for the same as you. I think the King Cobra, it seems like he's going to be a big, point-consistent guy. But the concern might actually be the other seat, Dutch Booster, because he had a really difficult Australia, spun a couple of times, was way off the back of the pack. I think he actually got disqualified in the end for something. It's concerning. And I think that failing the TP needs to be looking into this and thinking, right, this is my golden division. We talked about this yesterday. This is the golden division. We need to maximise the points in this division, especially since it's so empty in comparison. King Cobra seems very independent. Dutch Booster, maybe he needs a bit of support there. But you're completely right. McLaren, I do think, are going to be number 2 in that division, and they're going to be breathing down Alpine's neck, even with one full-time seat and 1 reserve waiting on that full-time seat. And even if Tiger misses races, I think it's still going to be close. Yeah. So I think it's going to come down a lot to Dutch Booster's ability to keep it consistent and get those points in. Because I think every point's going to matter here. McLaren are going to be right there with them, but I have put Alpine. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Moving on to the next day, up to Thursday, Division 4. I would argue, I can't lie, probably my favourite division. It is so stacked in there. There are so many names that could genuinely have a big impact in this championship. We've got previous championship fighters. We've got people from all across different divisions. It's going to be interesting. Who have you put for P3?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on the basis of this is probably the most stacked division in the league as it stands.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got names, you've got Blake, Five Wise, Bays, Melvin, Vlad, Christella. There's so many good names in this division, even with the potential Div 3 drivers possibly moving down. It's so unpredictable. But for me, in third place, I've gone with a previous championship winner at McLaren. My boy, I've gone for Blake in P3 this season in the Red Bull.
Fair. Why is that?
I think in season 1 he was very strong. I mean, he had just moved to a wheel. He was at race after race. He was learning how to improve on a wheel, where just the minor details to get quicker. And you can notice it in the races if you go back and watch him. He gets slowly quicker and quicker. And it full well deserved that championship against Melvin. I believe Melvin lost the championship against Blake in Abu Dhabi by 11 points.
Yeah.
I remember watching that. That was really entertaining to watch. But he deserved it. And McLaren, I believe, who won the Constructors with Liam in Division 4, they deserved the Constructors as well. But just off the basis of Blake missing a full season and coming back to it with such a competitive division, especially after missing round 1, I just believe he's gonna find himself chasing other drivers instead of competing. So I've gone for him third.
He needs to be on it from literally day dot. The fact that he's missed round 1 is not a great start. But I agree. I have not gone for him for P3 though. I've actually gone for another lower considered team. I've said P3 is going to go to Christella.
Really?
I think and I think, you know what it is? The story of Christella is very interesting, and it's similar almost to Blake, that they had such a good previous season. Yeah, fair enough, hers was longer ago, as you'll remember, being her rival.
Mm-hmm.
But then they took a break. They had a big break that was probably detrimental to their skill of the game, and I appreciate now it's a new game as well. I was back in 23. But coming back in, and, it's sort of like dipping your toe in. They've jumped straight into what we consider as the most competitive division. They're up against drivers that are going to be breathing down their neck at all times, very similar to Blake. I think Christella's going to come out of that quite well. She's a very experienced driver at this stage. She's raced against people of all shapes and sizes. She's been against Div 3, Div 4 now, and of course Div 2 as well, where she was last season, of course, due to the time she could race. Back down to Div 4, I think that this is her opening to have a shot at the championship. I don't think she'll get it, because Alpine, I can't imagine, will give her the support that maybe the higher teams will. It'll be down to her ability, and I think her ability will get her far, but not quite the championship. I haven't quite said she's going to get the top one in the division.
Yeah.
But who have you put P2?
P2 is an interesting one. I believe this season he's going to be on his revenge arc. I think he's got a real point to prove. Last season, a lot of people were on his case about really underperforming with the teammates that he had, and he didn't deserve that seat in his team. I believe this season he's going to prove everyone wrong, and he's going to show everyone why he is good enough to have a seat in a top team. I've gone for Jamie in P2.
Ooh, big call. Fair enough.
Yeah, I believe he's quick enough.
Jamie.
I rate him as a driver and I rate him as a person. I believe this season he's really going to challenge for that championship. Really do. And I hope he does. I hope he does.
Yeah. Jamie, obviously, he's the defending constructors. Half of the defending constructors, of course, with Kalik and Benjo, who, as you say, was argued that they just carried him to the championship. This is definitely a season for him to prove himself, and I think that it's going to be difficult because the problem is, right, going into this new season, he's got to prove himself, and his teammate again is probably the quickest in the division on raw pace, which is Tycho. Yeah. So again, it's going to be difficult for him to prove himself. I'm sure he can do it though, because he's a very capable driver. Silly mistakes last season, I think they came in plenty, but hopefully he's cleaned up his craft for the new game. I have not gone for Jamie. for P2. And I've gone for something that's actually quite interesting. And I'll tell you what, actually, I'm tempted to say I'll say my P2 and my P1 together because it's got a bit of storyline behind it. There's a bit of a rivalry between these two, and I think that rivalry is going to come up once again in season 3. We waited a break season in the middle for these guys to come apart, but I think they're going to come together one more time for a championship. I think it's going to be Melvin versus Blake for the title, and I think Blake's going to take it. I think Melvin really? P2, Blake P3, P1, sorry. Yeah, so Div 4 back in season 1, Blake won it, as you say, with Melvin in the final round. I mean, I'd argue it was possible for him to win it. I mean, Blake had an almost flawless drive there. I think Melvin got the strategy all wrong. He pit so late, I remember, and just got undercut by everyone and got stuck behind people. I think there was a possibility he could have won the title there. It was slim, but if he got the strategy better, then maybe. I think he's on his revenge arc. And I think Melvin... The difference then was Melvin in a Williams. I can't imagine he was getting much support there. Melvin in a McLaren, now that's a different story. Very strong Australia race he had this first weekend. He's got the points gain on Blake already, but I just rate Blake. I think Blake's racecraft is just beyond the drivers in this division. He's an incredible driver. He battled and raced against drivers who realistically above this standard. He fought against Liam. He fought against CBT back in season 1. I think Blake's going to come back and be the first driver to get a second championship on his revenge season. But I absolutely rate Melvin. I think Melvin's going to take it to the final round once again because he's dangerously quick this game.
Yeah, I mean.
But what do you think?
I mean, I was going to explain exactly what you have with a little more context. Obviously, Blake.
Oh yeah.
Blake was at McLaren in season 1 when he won the championship. Obviously, with me helping him the best I can in the early stages of the season, and I believe him being in a top team, an experienced team, massively helped him against Melvin to win the championship. It's the complete opposite now, in my opinion. It's now Melvin's in the top team of McLaren, whereas Blake isn't, and I believe Melvin's going to have the right resources and the right guidance that he needs, which he didn't at Williams. And I believe he's going to win himself the championship that he almost won in season 1. I've gone for Melvin to win the championship in Division 4.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's definitely plausible. He's done a very good job in round 1. And as you say, with the support from McLaren, he's gonna be dangerous. He's gonna be dangerous. However, who have you put for the Constructors' Championship? Who do you think is going to take in that trophy home? So far, we've had McLaren won it in season 1 and Haas won it in season 2. What do you think for season 3?
I think it's going to be really close. I mean, just taking a look at the Division 4 lineups really quick, you've even got One Eye and Owls in the Aston who aren't even that bad. I think they're going to be quite consistent this season. I don't think they're going to be up at the front, but I think the top half for them will be good. But in terms of who's going to win the Div 4 Constructors, I mean, you've got Blake and Breezy, which is a really good lineup, and Haas have got Jamie and Tycho. I believe the Constructors this season is going to be between Haas and McLaren.
Fair, yeah. 2 defending champions.
And just in my personal opinion, this may sound really harsh, and a lot of people will probably agree with me. I think the sole reason Haas won the Constructors in Div 4 last season was because of Kalik and Benjo. And they don't have a Kalik or a Benjo anymore in that team, which is really going to affect them. So I'm going to go McLaren to win the Constructors in Division 4. But don't underestimate Red Bull. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I was looking at Red Bull. I'm also looking maybe at Aston.
Yeah.
Because they've got a good duo if it all hooks up for them. They're a bit accident prone now, and Cajun, and also I'm looking at Ferrari as well. Maybe 2 underdogs.
One underdog.
Bays. Yeah. Well, I mean, Kiernan threw away an opportunity of a championship last season, so he's clearly got the experience of fighting at the front. Bays has had an all over the place season, but all season I say career in XRS I could almost say, but Australia was an interesting one, arguably one of his best races ever, where he's storming up the order with a good strategy and good pace. But I have actually gone for 2 for 2 with you. I've agreed with another constructor. I think McLaren are going to win it. I think the teammate pairing of Vlad and Melvin is too quick for any other team to compare on consistency. Because I think the raw pace of a lot of drivers here is very equal, bar Tycho. I think Tycho's
Yeah.
on raw pace a level above them. He's just not consistent enough. And we saw that in Australia when he was leading, had a win completely in his bag, and he dropped it on his own and also got a 10-second penalty. It doesn't really get much worse than that. I think Tycho is going to... I don't even think it can classify as Tycho throwing away a championship. I think that he's going to make too many mistakes to even get near it, I'll be honest. It sounds harsh, but I think it's true.
I mean,
Vlad had a messy round one, but I think he's going to be up there too. I know how Melvin.
I mean, looking at Vlad and Melvin as a lineup, I believe Vlad had a very underrated season last season. I think he achieved like 3rd or 4th, maybe. I could be wrong. I believe he was somewhere amongst the front in Division 4 in the standings, and he had a very consistent season. He didn't really challenge for wins in Division 4, obviously with the factor of Calic and Benjo, but he was always consistent. He was always there. He was always someone that was hard to beat, and I think the consistency of Vlad and the pace of Melvin will be really good for McLaren in Division 4.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a danger duo there. Got another good lineup. We're going to move chronologically. We're going to move to the next day. We're going to head to, as I always say, my neck of the woods. We're heading to Division 3. One that is actually, I'd argue, almost as stacked, if not just as stacked as Div 4, because the quali gaps, may I add, by the way, and I'm going to tell you a little story here. The quali gaps in Div 3 from last season, and it's even closer this season. The quali gaps last season were mental. I was 15th on my first run in Silverstone. I improved by 0.3, and I went up to 3rd. And then in Vegas, I think it was like 1st to like 15th or 16th was separated by half a second or something. It was something ridiculous like that. That is fantastic. That's exactly what every league race or every league owner, league head admin wants, where a pack is that incredibly close. I have no doubt it's going to be very similar in this game. I think there is arguably one standout guy, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Who do you think is P3?
You know what? You tell me your P3.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you all behind your cameras to put your hands together for the Season 1 champion who's missing races, but he's coming back to the podium because I was P3 last season, which was a robbery. I won't get into that here, but it was a robbery. And I'm going to come back for it. I think I'm only going to get P3. I'll be humble. I don't think I'm going to win it. But I think I'm going to get P3. I think I've taken to the game quicker than I expected. I think I'm a decent pace. I think my consistency is better than everyone else's. I think I was the only one in that entire full lobby Div 3 race who didn't spin on their own. I'm ready to fight for this, even if I'm missing I think 2 or 3 races. Yeah. It's a 14 race calendar. I reckon that those damages can be rectified with solid results. I back myself P3.
Fair enough.
What do you think?
I think with the amount of races...
You're going to hurt my feelings, aren't you? You're not going to put me on. You're going to hurt my feelings.
With the amount of races that you're missing this season, it's very good that you back yourself. Obviously, you being the defending champion, the defending one-time champion. I believe you'll still be up there. I believe you're still going to be someone that people are going to struggle to get through. I believe this season, you're going to be one of those drivers that, even though you're not really going to be there in the races that might be decisive on the championship, I think you're going to be someone who's can affect a championship.
Yeah.
But I still think a podium's achievable for you, no doubt. But I've not put you 3rd. I've put CGM in 3rd in the McLaren.
Fair.
I think he's a very consistent driver, and he is a quick driver. He got 2nd in the standings last season. Came into McLaren mid-season whenever I took over, and has done a perfect job since joining the team. I think he's looking good on this game. He's feeling confident. But I've put him P3, which for him I think's realistic and easily achievable.
Yeah, very fair. P2, what about P2?
I've gone interesting for P2. I've gone for someone who he might not be as known as well amongst Division 3. I certainly know him well back from whenever we were both at Williams, or he reserved for Williams back in Brazil. And I engineered him to that amazing win in Brazil, if you know it. I've gone for my boy, representing Red Bull. I've put Alfie second in the championship. I think this guy
Yep,
is,
so have I.
in terms of how well known he is, I think he's a real dark horse. I think his pace is amazing. I think he is a race winner, and I think he has the ability to be a championship winner in the future. I think he's going to take it down to the wire, and I hope he does. I really hope he does, because I think he's a good driver. But P2 for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking to win a championship this season in XRS, you need to not blind yourself from the teams that maybe you're not expecting the danger to come from. It's not just the top teams in the OCC that are going to be causing you issues. I absolutely agree that Red Bull have cooked with this signing. I think Alfie is going to be a real danger man. He's an absolute dark horse because he is in a team that might not be fighting for P1 in the OCC, but he's absolutely chasing down the championship. He was rapid in Australia. I've also put him P2. I think he's going to be really quick. He's going to be good.
Yeah.
P1. I have a feeling we've put the same person.
Yeah, I know we have. I know we have.
P1. I have put Rocket Race. I'm joking.
Yeah, mate. I was about to walk out. I was about to leave. Forget this episode. Scrap it off, mate.
Yeah. P1 Skiz. Sure.
Yeah, I agree with you.
He's found another level in this game. I'm looking forward to challenging for wins and for podiums if I can fix the quali pace. If I can start next to him, then I'll cause him some issues, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think this season he's massively stepping up his game. I know he really wants that championship. He didn't really have the best of seasons last season, early stage anyway. And then it came to the later stages of the season where he knew his contract was coming to an end almost. He still got one season left, and he knew that he sort of had to start getting the results that you should be getting in a top team. And he performed amazingly in Saudi Arabia and amazingly in Vegas. And I think this game is on another level. And it's like I don't just go about saying that for a joke. I mean, I've seen it. I've spoke to him. He's one committed guy, and I honestly think he's going to win this championship with ease.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll even have a rival.
Wow.
If he can keep it consistent.
Enough.
I mean, Australia was a bit unfortunate, but I think he's aware of that, and yeah, I think he'll win the championship.
Fair. Who do you think is going to win the Constructors' Championship? Well, I mean, if you listen to your top three, then it should be pretty obvious.
I think.
Who have you picked for Constructors?
I think this is harder. I think this Constructors battle will be a lot more difficult than it seems. I think Ferrari are going to be up there.
Yep.
I think with Malachi being the defending champion, I mean, I don't think he's going to have a good season with all due respect to him, but he's going to be consistent nonetheless. And obviously, you're going to be there as well, and everyone knows you fight for wins. And in the races you miss, I'm sure Mr. West will bring in a good reserve to cover for you. So I think Ferrari, throughout the whole season, are going to challenge for the Constructors. I think it'll come down to the wire. And I hope it does for the sake of the rivalry. But I've gone, based off my drivers' top three, it's pretty obvious. I've gone for McLaren.
Yeah.
And
we are 3 for 3
on Constructors
McLaren as well. Yeah. I'll be honest. I would back myself more if I knew I was doing every race. I reckon I could take the fight to Skiz, but I am not, so I don't know.
I think you're good enough.
Malachi's
to take
a very,
the fight
very experienced. Yeah, I mean Malachi's a very experienced driver. He's also on a wheel, same as Skiz. I'm on a controller like CGM. I'd argue we're very, very equal matched.
100%.
I hope that lack of attendance doesn't rob us of a really good championship fight, because I think all four of us are probably the best drivers in the division. If not, we have you have the Calic sticking his nose in there. You have the Ransdale. You have, of course, the Alfie we talked about as well.
I mean,
but I have got McLaren. I think they're going to match it.
I don't think it'll just be McLaren and Ferrari either. I mean, there's some underrated lineups in Division 3,
really?
which I'm going to actually
if you're about to say Aston Martin, we're going to have an issue.
I don't think Aston Martin will be competitive in Division 3. I mean, I think Boldy is an underrated driver. I really think he is. I think he is. I've actually like if we were to go through the whole of Division 3, I've actually put him above you in the standings this season.
Hang on. What?
I actually think Boldy is going to have a really good season at Aston Martin. But
Boldy, you hearing this?
Yeah, it's top 3 drivers, not top 5 or top 8. But I think Boldy's gonna have a really good season.
Top 8.
But I think Boldy's gonna beat you. I'm putting it out there. Boldy to beat Avi in the standings in season 3.
First of all, I can miss 13 out of 14 races in this season. I'd still finish top 5. Second of all,
crazy.
I'm not getting beaten by Boldy the Bottler. That is right. Okay, let me sort him out in China, and then we'll talk. Right, we'll talk about this in the podcast later on.
But yeah, I mean, there's multiple teams that can challenge. I think Haas have a good lineup as well. I think Kalik, a name we haven't mentioned, really underrated going into the championship. I mean, he got moved up last season and he competed really, really well. I would mention Red Bull, but they've had a massive stinker signing Morgan Hughes. I think that guy is.
My God.
I think that guy is going to be the one driver to hold Red Bull down. And I honestly think if Red Bull had a different driver, I think if Red Bull had signed someone possibly like Liam, who can try and get consistent points, they could be up there. But I think Kua's in a league of his own and for the wrong ways. I think that man needs a Division 6 and possibly a Division 7 just to himself, just pure on his pace this season. I think if Red Bull did not have that guy, they could probably challenge, if not win, the Constructors in Division 3. But yeah, game's the game. McLaren Ferrari Division 3, bring it on.
What are your? Can I ask actually? What are your opinions on the VCARB Div 3 lineup?
With Matt and who's the other driver they have? They have Pink. Yeah, I think
after Australia as well, taking that into account.
I mean, they're two well-known drivers. I mean, Matt in season 1 he challenged you for the championship. In season 2 he was off the pace, and I think in this season with the new game, I think he's off the pace as well. I think Pink going into season 1, I think Pink was spoke about really highly because he was in Division 2 in previous times, and obviously moving down to Division 3 in season 1, he was a real threat. When I was in Division 3 anyway, he was amongst the names I thought would be up there, and he just wasn't really. I mean, he got a win, I think, at the later stages of the season. Last season, he wasn't really noticed. And I think this season, he's going to be really consistent. I think he's going to be one of the most consistent. Will he challenge for wins? Absolutely not. Will he get consistent points for VCARB? 100%. I mean, look at Australia, for example. I think he got like P18 to P8 or something. That is incredible.
Yeah.
But I don't think he'll challenge for wins. But in terms of their lineup,
do you think
I think VCARB third for me. Third in constructors.
If it's constructors?
Yeah.
Okay. After what? Ferrari and McLaren?
Yeah, and I think Haas. I mean, Haas could beat them, but I think it'll be Haas and VCARB for third.
Do you think because VCARB, where do you expect them to be in the OCC? Probably like 4th, 5th.
I think I put them 6th.
Not quite fighting for it. Yeah. Oh well, there we go then.
Yeah, I put them 6th.
As in like, not quite fighting for it. Not quite fighting for the OCC win, but like a solid midfield team.
Yeah.
Do you think that having Matt and Pink in the team matches that? Because obviously, Pink, as you said, is very consistent. Matt's quite quick, but prone to more errors.
I think Matt and
I think
team. Having drivers like Matt and Pink in a lineup just confirms and solidifies the statement of they're nothing better but a mid-table team. I think they're good drivers, consistent drivers, and I rate them both highly. Are they winners? Absolutely not. Are they good enough to be in a team like VCARB? Yes. Are they good enough as individuals to potentially challenge to earn a top seat in the likes of Ferrari or McLaren? Potentially. But I think they're at the right place in VCARB, and I don't really think there's any pressure on them both to perform. Really. I know that sounds harsh.
Do you think it's very chill there? I
think it is.
Consistent midfield team and just holding on.
I think they did well in the OCC last season, and they're going to try and defend their position. I think they got like fourth or fifth, one of the two. They're going to try and keep that this season. So there's obviously the pressure of beating the rivals. There always is, but I think weirdly, VCARB this season is just a team that have good vibes, and they're not really there's not really any pressure in that team, which is good.
You think?
But that's
I mean, I don't know, because I mean, if you look at season 1, I mean, season 1 and 2, they both finished 4th, I think.
Yeah.
And they're obviously trying to be competitive. They're scrapping McLaren in season 1. They were scrapping Alfa Romeo in season 2. Like, do you think the competitiveness is gone for them?
I think with team principles and teams getting more competitive, with the league growing and drivers becoming quicker, I think teams like Sauber and VCAB, who have done well, they're slowly gonna start to fall behind on competition, and I think they're gonna notice that this season. But in terms of those two individually, I think they're gonna be very consistent, but they're not really gonna challenge up at the front anyway.
I think you're right, because obviously if you go into a new F1 game where no one really understands the tyres, the handling, like the new mechanics and stuff like that, it's very important about the team and who understands it first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if VCARB aren't competitive, they're not going to understand it as quick as McLaren and Haas and Ferrari, which is who they should be challenging with. But yeah, you're right. We're going to move forward one more day. We're heading on to the weekend. We're on to Division 2, another incredibly stacked division. A lot of big names in here, including a previous champion and, of course, a current holder of a championship. Who do you think is finishing in the top 3? Who's third?
For me, this is really close. I mean, I'm in this division. I know the competition. I've played the game. For my P3, I've gone interesting. I've gone for the defending champion in Ronan for 3rd place.
Fair, yeah.
There's not really a lot to say on it. I think he's an amazing driver, amazing quali pace, amazing race pace. But I think the competition in Division 2 has stepped up another level this season. But I've put him 3rd. What about you?
Well, I'd like to make a disclaimer, and I did this last recording as well, and I'm going to make it clear as well. If you were still on a wheel, because if you don't know, Mr. Millard was practicing on a wheel, and then it broke, and he's now back on a controller. If you'd stayed on wheel, and if you'd carried on your practice from wheel, I would have put you top 3. Guaranteed I would have put you top 3.
Okay.
But you're back on controller, so I think you're going to finish 15th. So my actual P3 is going to be...
Sorry, no, don't even say that, yeah, right? I did one race on a controller in Australia, and that was my first race on a controller in months, and I did get lapped, yes, but it's expected. I should be on a wheel for China, alright? But it's,
okay. But you want to go back onto wheel? I thought it was like a done dusted thing.
No. But I'm playing a team game this season.
You're counting yourself out for everything now already.
No, not at all. I think I'm gonna be up there. I'm gonna challenge. I think I am good enough to challenge. But I think in terms of pace this season on the new game, I mean, me personally, I think I've struggled to learn this game as quickly as others have. I don't think I'm going to compete against the likes of Ronan and on Epic, but I think I'm going to be a consistent driver to get good points in my team. I mean, my goal is constructors, not the drivers.
Yeah. Fair. Okay, so my actual P3, who I think is going to be taking home the 3rd place trophy at the end of the season, is a former champion, but it's not the one you named. It is Casper. I think Casper, very, very strong season 1. And not even the fact that it was very strong, it's the fact that it started strong. It wasn't a late attack to the championship like mine was. His started from day 1 and he was on it. And he had an underwhelming season 2 off the pace. A lot of the second half of it was playing a team game for Ronan, who in the end took his championship. I think he'll be back up there. He had a very good Australia race. It was incredibly consistent. He was, I think, quite clearly off the pace of Asteroid, Epic, and Mateo Manga. But I think that what he has is that consistency. And it's so easy to make a mistake in this game. under braking in the corners. They've actively made it so he's more realistic, which I like the idea of. Casper is a person who's not going to make a silly mistake like that. And while he did have a weak, even the fact that he had a weak season 2, he still wasn't making silly mistakes. He was just a bit off the pace. And I think this is where he's going to shine this season. I don't think he'll win the championship, but I do think he'll be back up there on merit of his consistency. Similar to me, almost, you could say.
Yeah.
That I think he'll be up there.
I mean,
that's what I've gone for, yeah.
I mean, still talking about Casper, I mean, I rate Casper highly. I think he's Ferrari's, I think he's one of, if not Ferrari's best driver that they have. And I do rate him really highly, but I'm going to put it out there, whether people agree with me or not. I think if Dylan, or known as Squig, if he competed in the sort of 4 to 5 races that he didn't race in, I think Dylan would have beaten him in the championship by ease. With all due respect,
by ease.
I think Dylan lost the championship, or Squig, in season 1. He lost it by 36 points, and that's 5 races he didn't compete in. I think Squig or Dylan would have won that championship in season 1 against his former teammate a lot easier than people put out as. I mean, Casper was amazing in season 1. Don't get me wrong, but I think people overlook the fact that Dylan missed that many races, and I think he would have won the championship. I think he knows that. But Casper's an unreal driver. He didn't have the best of seasons last season, with it being a short season. But I think this season he will be up there 100%.
I do somewhat agree with that. I think a lot of people's opinions and their assumptions on, let's say, this person is too fast for this division, is based primarily on the results that they can see, the numbers that they can see. Obviously, because Megan or Dylan, they weren't physically up there because they'd missed so many races. It didn't look like how their results were so strong. I think he was absolutely the most underrated driver that season, not even that division, because he was incredibly... he just went under the nose of everyone. And he was absolutely in striking range of the championship had he not missed those races. Regardless, though, he also had a weak season too, didn't he? Similar to Casper. So it kind of went the same direction anyway. I'm interested to see how he does in the later stages of the season. I haven't put him in my top 3, but he's on a controller as well. He also spun on his own. He seems to be having the same issues everyone else is. So we'll see how he changes throughout the season. But yeah, who did you pick your P3?
I put Ronan third, and
who's your second?
My second is Asteroid. I think he's really going to challenge this season. I think he really wants to try and challenge anyway. I think he's quick enough to do so. Whether he finds the excuse me. Whether he finds the cut this bit out, mate. I need a drink. Oh, now my voice is just cracked. What the fuck?
Get bloopers ready.
No, we do not want a bloopers on that, mate. My voice is just broke so bad.
You should repeat it either, son.
Okay. For my P2, I've put Asteroids. I think he is quick enough to challenge for the title this season, and I think it is going to be another one of them rivalries that comes down to the wire. If he can find the consistency race after race to properly challenge, no doubt in my mind that he could possibly even win it. I know he's quick. I know he's really good. He's really quick in qualifying. Whether he can take that pace that he has in qualifying into the race, we'll see. I mean, he did that in Australia, but it's P2 for me for Asteroid.
Fair. I haven't gone for your P2. Asteroid's about to intensify in the chat here because I've not gone for Asteroid P2.
Really?
I've actually gone for Mr. Epic OJ.
Epic OJ P2. Okay. Why is that?
I think you know what? I think that he was this is a hot take actually. This is a hot take. As a Ferrari driver, I think that last season he was the quickest driver in that division. I think he was quicker than Ronan, but Ronan was just better. I think he was more consistent, and obviously he didn't get torpedoed in Monza as badly as Epic did. I think. I mean, it was only points separating those two. I think they're incredibly equal, and I do think Epic was quicker. I think the Ronan was just better in that kind of sense. I think Epic will absolutely be up there again. He's probably, I mean, he's up there. He's absolutely top 3 in terms of pace in that division. I think he's going to be a dangerous man to be watching out for. I think he's McLaren's. I mean, if you're aiming for the championship, if you're aiming for the constructors, then he's going to be McLaren's number 1, and I think he will be P2.
Yeah.
Which is very good.
Fair enough.
Question is, who do you think is going to win Div 2? Who have you put?
I've gone different to you, and I think I know who your first is. I think we've done a bit of an opposite here. I'm going to back my boy, my teammate Epic OJ, to win the Drivers' Championship in Division 2. I splashed the cash on him for a reason. Alright, I didn't just do it because he's a big name. I'm backing him all the way. I think he's good enough, quick enough, consistent enough. He's got the right mentality. I believe he's going to win the championship. I'm not saying he's going to win it comfortably. I think it's going to come right down to the wire between possibly 4 drivers. But I think he's going to take it. I think last season, with racing against him and Ronan, I believe he is one of possibly the quickest. But obviously he had some unfortunate races, which wasn't really his fault. But this season is his season. I believe it, and I'm backing him all the way.
Fair.
What about yourself?
Yeah, you're completely right. I've done the opposite of you. I've put Ronan for P1.
Yeah, I thought so.
I think he'll be. Yeah, I think he'll be our second driver with 2 championships after Blake. I back him. I think he was very good in season 2. He was very good in season 1 as well. Had really, really strong pace. I think he's going to take that into the new game. It's a very detrimental he's missed round 1, but I think that he'll come back, and I think he'll score very well. Finally, who have you put for your constructors for Div 2?
No, I think we're going to go... what is it? 1, 2, 3... I think we're going to go for Ferrari. I'll be honest. I've gone...
Here we go.
I think this will be probably the most clearest constructor win there'll be. I think they're going to go 3 for 3. I think they've got a good enough lineup to do it. I'm going to go Ferrari to win the constructors in Division 2 again.
Yeah, you're completely right. I've gone for the same as you.
Yeah, I mean that lineup is unreal, and I think they are going to do it again. Yeah.
I mean, obviously Casper and Dylan won it season 1. Then Casper and Ronan won it season 2. I think they're going to take it a double. They're going to make it 3 Div 2 constructors to the name of Ferrari. Both champions, both very consistent, both very talented drivers.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see them take it home.
Yeah, I believe so.
But I don't think it'll be. I think it'll be closer than it has been previous seasons. If you remember back in season 1, they won it by like double the points of P2.
Yeah.
Something stupid like that. I
crazy.
Absolutely won't be like that. But yeah, I think they'll take it home. Finally, and as a reflection of what this division is going to be like, we think back to Australia Div 1, which was one of the weirdest and most just insane races I've ever watched and commentated on. We go to Division 1, the Sunday division, the top drivers in the division. Many esports names are here, and we're going to talk about top 3. Who do you think is going to finish third? Because I don't think I've put the same as you. I've mixed it up. I've gone for a weird one.
I think we have the same names, whether they're in the right order or not. I think it's going to be different. I've gone for someone who's looking quick on this game. I think he stepped up his role in the team he's in. And I've only put him for P3 off for the basis of how good the people in first and second are. I've put Neb for P3 in the standings.
Very fair.
I think he's good enough to actually compete up at the front. I think he's even quick enough to compete for wins, which against certain names in the division is a big comment to make. But I think he is quick enough. We saw glimpses of it in Australia, in the early stage of the race anyway, and I think he's going to be a real threat to watch out for this season.
Yep, very fair. I have not gone for Neb for P3. In fact, I don't think I've gone for a name that's in your top 3 at all.
Okay.
I've gone for a little bit of a rogue one, and it's a name that I think we're all familiar with in this division because he's a big name, because he's already got himself a championship. P3, I'm going to say Reese is going to take P3 in VCARB. I rate him. I think he's got some incredible pace. I think if he pushes and practices to the extent of season one, I think he's going to come through and actually put up a serious fight against the top drivers. I think he's going to be more of an issue than people have let on. And I'm going to say Reese.
I mean, he's good enough to do it.
He's a big V Carb name. He's got their only drivers' championship.
Yeah.
And if your predictions are right, they'll have one more with Sarah Ferrer. But I think Reese will. I think Reese will be top 3 again. I think he's a very, very solid driver. P2, I'll say my P2. P2, and this is where it gets interesting actually, because when I say my P2, you're gonna be confused and you won't understand what's going on. P2, I've gone for Neb Restroom. I think, as you say, he stepped up the game, and he stepped up the game seriously in this new game. I've known him since I started league racing, like a year and a half ago, and I'm so happy that going into this new game, he found some serious pace. He proved in Australia he's a danger. He's a danger to the front boys, and he's become a driver that can seriously contend for this championship. I think he absolutely could have won that race, and it's also very, very vital that Aston Martin of all teams have got him, because it's a team that, they finished 9th twice in the OCC. They've had a really strong start to season 3. A big part of that is from Neb, and I think if they follow up with what their lineup is looking to be able to contend for, it could be a very fruitful season for the team. I think Neb Restroom is a big part of that. So I'm going to say P2.
Fully agree with everything you just said. The pace he's found in this game is unbelievable. I think last season he didn't have the best of seasons, and honestly, in a personal opinion, I think he was one of the names that potentially could have been moved down off the basis of where he finished in the standings last season. But massively stepped up his game. I know he's put a lot of time into this game, signing with a new esports team, I believe. I could correct me if I'm wrong, but I hope he does do well. Obviously, for the sake of him being in an Aston, I wish otherwise, but I rate Neb, and I hope he does challenge for the championship.
Yeah, very fair. P2 for you.
I think this is really hard. I think my P2 is going to reveal who my P1 is. But honestly, it's even though I back who's P1 100%, I think this is going to be one of the best rivalries the league will ever witness. This guy has found his prime again. Arguably the Lewis Hamilton, or potentially one of the most dominant drivers I think I've ever seen in leagues I've participated in. I've put Ilias P2 in the Williams. I think his pace, from what I've seen so far, I think it's going to be really close to win, and I was so tempted to put him first. I think it's going to be really close. I think he's found his prime back. I think he's found his pace from previous leagues, and I really think he's going to be a massive threat to who P1 is. But I think off of the basis of what team he's in, I think that's going to be the reason he loses the championship, in my opinion. I think if he was in a different team to Williams, I think I would put him first.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Okay. For P1, who have you put? I think we all know.
We all know. This guy is. I cannot speak highly enough of him. I love the guy. Techebi P1 to win the championship again. This man is not human. His pace is amazing. And a driver to have in my team. He's an amazing personality as well. I think he's obviously quick enough to win it again. I think he won it in style last season. I think I actually saw conversations of people scared to race him. His competitor last season, I believe, was Snowy, which says it all. I think he had a really good season last season, and I think he's gonna keep that consistency in this season. He had an unfortunate race in Australia, but he's gonna do it again. He's gonna go, 2 for 3, and he's gonna win. Not comfortably. I think Ilias is really gonna give him a run for his money. But I have to back him. I have to.
for my P1, and you'll notice actually with my top three, I have not named either Elias or Teshubi. So one of them ain't making it to the list, or maybe both. I have analysed this order
Choose wisely.
using all my racing knowledge. I've analysed this order using all my racing knowledge and my knowledge of these two, seeing Elias dominate in leagues, seeing Teshubi come through to XRS and rattle the entire division. I've decided to pick neither of them. I think Alec is going to win the Div 1 championship.
Are you on something?
No, I'm joking. No, it was going to be Teshubi. It's going to be Teshubi. Teshubi's a beast. He's an alien. He's going to take his second championship. And I'll tell you what, the reason I didn't put Elias, and I'll truthfully tell you, because watching Australia Elias, I truly believe, is the first person to really put Teshubi under pressure. There's quick people in this division. Don't get me wrong. There's Tonio, there's Reese, there's Tano, there's Sleek, there's Snowy. But I think that Elias got under his skin because Elias was genuinely quicker than him. When the Inters came out, with the second set of Inters, Elias was quick, and he was beginning to build that gap to Teshubi. And I don't think Teshubi's ever been gapped in XRS, or at least not. The gap's never been getting bigger. I do think Teshubi's got the drive to do it. He clearly cares about the league, which I'm so happy he does. He's a force to be reckoned with. I think he's going to be the third driver to get his second championship because he absolutely deserves it. And I mean, he arguably could have won season 1 as well. I think he's going to get P1. I'll tell you the reason, actually. The reason why I don't think Elias is going to be top 3 is because I don't think he's going to stick around. And I don't mean like he's going to leave the league. I just don't think I don't know how much he cares about XRS. I think you have to build a relationship with leagues, you know what I mean? Yeah. He's raced once at XRS before, which was last season, and obviously he was a very familiar face in the league that me and you were talking about where he dominated. I think he absolutely, maybe next season, will do all the races, become a force, and win the championship, maybe. Sure, absolutely. But I think you've got to build a relationship with the league before you put it before other things. A Sunday evening is a common time to do other things. And I'll be interested to see whether his attendance is what holds him back, because I think it will be. I think he'll put on a fight with Teshubi when he's there. I think when he's not there, the points will begin to slip away, and I think Teshubi will begin to grab them and get away. That's why Elias is not in my top 3.
Fair enough. I mean,
so that was my logic.
If his priorities are elsewhere, then yeah, I agree. I don't see him getting top 3, but I think XRS has grown massively, and I mean massively. I think I cannot rate highly the work that's been done to grow the league, and I think the league is big enough now to attract big names, really quick drivers, and I think that is the next step for the league. I think they can really attract some good drivers, some well-known drivers, and I think Elias, the more he races and the more he sees what's going on within the Discord, I think he will start to engage more in XRS, and I think he will be a consistent and a reliable driver to turn up this season.
Okay, fair enough. And finally, this is a difficult one actually, and I was looking over the order and I really couldn't decide. Who have you put for your Constructors Championship in Div 1? Because there's a lot of pairings here that could actually put some pressure on it.
I think it's really difficult because it's a lot of the lineups for me is a mix and match. I think my lineup, you've got Teshubi and Isu. I still think Isu is yet to prove himself within the league. Obviously had a good Bahrain result last season. You've got Sleek and Jay Snowy, the defending champions. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the top this season, with all due respect.
Really?
You've got the underdogs, in my opinion, the dark horses, being Aston Martin for the constructors. But I've gone for a team that I don't think necessarily are gonna compete with the likes of Teshubi. I think this team is purely gonna win the championship based off consistency. I've gone for Tano and Raven to win the constructors.
Wow.
Just based off how consistent they are. I mean, I've watched a lot of Raven's races. I know he's a guy who doesn't have the best quali pace, but I know his race pace is so underrated. And he showed glimpses of that in Australia. and he has done for a while. And I think he's going to be really consistent this season. I think he's going to have a better season than he did last season. I mean, last season was unfortunate for him in terms of where he finished overall. But I think he's going to be really consistent. And I think Tano is going to be sort of the opposite. Tano's going to be the driver to try and put pressure on the likes of Techebi and try and compete for the front, for the biggest points. But I still think Tano is going to be consistent as well. In the likes of 4th place, 3rd place, 5th place, consistent each race. And I've gone Ferrari to win the constructors based off how consistent they are. I mean, it's not like, I mean, we've spoke so highly the past few minutes on how good Techebi is, how good Neb's pace is looking, how good Ilias is looking. But Tano and Raven are big names, like they're massive names, and I think not even considering those guys for the top 3 just proves how tough and quick this division is. But yeah, I think Ferrari are going to win it based off consistency.
That's a big call, you know. Raven, who
Prove me
nearly
right.
nearly won season 1. Tano nearly won season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's interesting actually. I think Raven's race pace, as you say, very, very underrated.
Yeah.
I think I genuinely don't think that Raven has any business trying to fight Teshubi. But like looking at his quali pace, he's going to be qualifying over a second behind him, and then he'll turn up in the race and just scrap. Like he'll stay with him, he'll fight with him, and he'll do his best to hold on. I think Raven is he's a warrior in that division, and I think every time he does something, like finishes top 10, finishes breaking into the top 5, it's insane. Looking at the caliber of drivers in that division. Tano as well, one of the fastest in there as well. There's no surprise that he's going to be breaking into that top area. However, I have actually not gone for Ferrari. I've not agreed with you. The first time, we've got 4 out of 5.
I have a feeling
I've not backed my boys. I've not gone for Ferrari. I've also not gone for Aston Martin.
Okay.
What do you think?
That's what that was last thinking. Okay.
I've actually gone for the defending champions. I've actually gone for Sleek and Jay Snowy. And I wasn't sure. I'll be honest, I was between them and Aston Martin because I rate Neb and I rate Power as well. I think Jay Snowy is taken to the game quite quickly. Sleek is rapid. I think Sleek is the most underrated driver in that division.
Really?
I don't think people realise how quick he was. He was scrapping Teshubi. He was putting a lot of pressure on Teshubi last season. He just didn't do the attendance to keep up. I think he's quicker than Jay Snowy, I'll be honest. I think Sleek is the only one in this division. I mean, maybe Neb. I reckon Sleek and Neb are the 2 that could genuinely take the fight to Elias and Teshubi consistently. I think they're the only 2 that can do it. And I think that Sleek will be, if he does the races, I hope he does. I think he's actually going to break into that top 3 that you talked about, the Neb, Elias, Teshubi. I think he's going to break into it. I think he's going to be a big part of it. Jay Snowy, I don't know. I don't know if he's a top 3 driver anymore. I think he'll be solid. I think he'll get a top 7 in the championship. I think he'll bring in some really good points. I don't know if he's going to be right up there, but I think that's going to be enough. I think that's going to be very consistent points for a very solid driver. We'll just get them the constructors, and I think they'll defend it.
Yeah,
I think the legacy will live on in Division 1.
I think when you look at how Lass performed last season in Division 1, I mean, in terms of individually for a minute, I think Snowy had a really good season last season, with it being 8 races. I think how short of a season it was meant that he could keep such a low gap to Techebi, who won the championship. And I think knowing that you've almost beaten, probably quoted as the guy in XRS, it's a massive confidence booster for next season. I think if last season was longer and it was 14 races, I don't think he would have managed to keep the gap as close as it was with Techebi. But I think his confidence has massively been boosted from last season, knowing that he can sort of compete. I think with the competition there is this season, I think he is going to struggle, yes, but I think he's still somewhat underrated. I think he's quick enough to win races. He's quick enough to sort of go under the radar and secretly challenge. In terms of whoever the other guy is, I'm not really familiar with him, so I'm not gonna sit here and talk highly on him. I mean, I don't really know him. But I think just off the basis of I know how underrated Snowy is, I think Haas will do well. Yeah, I think in my opinion they're going to be the ones to challenge Ferrari for the constructors. alongside McLaren as well. But yeah, I agree with you on that. Sort of.
Very fair. That is an incredible lineup and incredible divisions we've got. Scraps all across the board, Wednesday to Sunday. If you want to know about our OCC though, where we talk about the teams individually and what they're up to,
It was crazy.
it's in the other video. We're in the wrong order, but we've rectified it, and we are back with the first part of the podcast. There's now the second part as well. Thank you very much, Millard, for joining me on this podcast.
No worries.
You're a fan favourite, I'll be honest. A lot of feedback I got from the Australia podcast all the way back in season 1. A lot of positive feedback from you, so maybe you're a fan favourite. Maybe
I'll be honest,
we might see you back here.
I'll be honest with you here, brother to brother. I don't think I'm going to be a fan favourite after my predictions. I'll be honest.
Yeah, but that's true.
Listen, I mean, I love watching the podcasts. I love being a part of the podcasts, and the good feedback that you received on me being there in the Australia podcast was amazing to hear. And every single opportunity that I get to be on this podcast, I will be here. I do love the concept of XRS Plus, and to be the first guest that has the privilege to do predictions, it has been an honour to sit here, to do this episode again. It's been really fun.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Well, I very much hope that you can be back on soon.
Thank you.
We will have the Australia rundown coming up very soon. You know what's also coming up very soon? Tomorrow evening, as we're recording this, or might be the evening of the video, the time you're watching this video. We're heading up to China for round 2, a track that we visited in season 1. It absolutely performed as a sprint race. We're heading there again in the brand new game. How would it affect the championship? We're going to find out very, very soon. We will see you all soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.